I would be meeting my maker sooner than planned, I guess. Well, I strongly believe that in a disastrous situation that how can you really go to God then when troubles are occurring? You should be going to Him long before that.
I would be terrified and probably praying.
Probably be terrified, wouldn't know what to do, in a panic, just probably think about my family. I actually have a daughter, so a lot would be going through my mind. Of course, I'm Catholic, so yeah, probably would get down on my knees and pray to God, because I do believe there is life after death.
I would hope that it happens quickly. And sheer terror is going down. You would think about being with Him who has been within me all my life.
Fear, concern. It's a travesty. It's just something that I could never, or I would fear if I had any kids, especially a young one. I'd feel awful. You know what? My theory is, when your time is to go, God is the one that will tell you when it's time.
A lot of faith on that street.
Yeah, well, you know, Maura, I can really relate to this question because a year ago I was on an airplane, an Airbus, in Johannesburg, South Africa, just returning from one of our ministry trips there, and we were struck with lightning right there, even before we took off. The electrical systems were all went out. For an hour and a half, 2 hours, we sat there, getting a few updates from the captain. But eventually he said we were good to go. He said it just kind of put out the computer system. We got it booted back up. We're ready to go. So anyway, we took off. We're about 7 minutes into the flight. We're still climbing. And I'm smelling smoke, electrical smoke. You know, there's an acrid, pungent smell to electrical fires. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I'm smelling it, everyone else is smelling it too. And then the cabin began to fill with smoke. And I saw the stewards and stewardesses, they're running back and forth and checking washrooms and all of that. And I'm wondering, well, why is the captain still climbing here? And he continued to climb. I found out later why. Anyway, we were about a half an hour out from Johannesburg, and he began to turn. And
turn back?
Turn back. And he came on, and by the way, all the lights are off. There's no lights in the cabin at all.
And nothing's been said.
Nothing's been said. And he says, as you know, we have an issue here. And he said, safety is our number one concern, and we need to return to Johannesburg just to make sure that all is well. Very calm. I looked out, I was sitting by the window, I looked out and I saw what appeared to be water flowing off of the wings. I thought, that's kind of strange. And then I realized they were dumping fuel. I found out later they dumped 27 tons of fuel out somewhere over Botswana. So we then began to come back to Joburg, and it's all dark and totally quiet. And about 10 minutes from landing, the chief steward comes on and says, now, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make an emergency landing. And he said all of the emergency rules apply. And he reminded women, if they had high heels, to take them off, and told us about the brace position and all of that. At this point in time, I fully expected that we were going to crash, as did everyone else on the plane.
What were your emotions in that moment?
Okay, now what I'm just before I tell you that, at this point, suddenly all the people in first class came back into coach where I was sitting. I always sit in coach, and I'm wondering what's up with that. And they looked like ghosts coming through the darkness. You know, I found out later because the electrical systems were out, the chairs, which are electrically operated in business and first class, could not return to the upright position, and so they came back and found seats with us. So there I am, I'm by myself, at least Kathy's usually with me, she wasn't with me, and here's exactly what I thought. First of all, at a time like that, you pray very word-efficient prayers. You don't flatter the Lord, you cut to the chase. The first thing I did was I prayed the Lord's Prayer, which to me is the most meaningful prayer of all. And then I prayed for Kathy, my wife. And the people around me were so quiet, like there was no panic. I didn't pray for my kids. I figured they're young, they'll
make their way.
They'll make their way, but Kathy, anyhow, as we approached the landing strip, it was literally swarming with fire trucks, ambulances, emergency vehicles. And the captain brought us in, and we landed. But he didn't apply the brakes. I found out later why. He was concerned about sparks. So we did the whole length of the runway. I used to think, runways are way too long. Well, they're not way too long. We coasted and coasted and coasted. And finally, when we came to the stop, these emergency vehicles were right there. They rushed us off the plane. And then I spent the next 72 hours trying to get back to Toronto. But I faced it. I know what it's like. And I'm sure that on that Air France flight, it was dead silent. I don't think there was anyone screaming or shouting. Everyone, I think, like me, were deep in thought and considering their maker.
We talk about dying grace.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I wasn't really, I wasn't terrified. I was in a strange...
Thoughtful.
I was thoughtful, and I also thought, well, in a moment,
I'm going to see
I'm
Jesus.
going to see you. I mean, this is really kind of cool, and I won't feel anything, because when a plane crashes, basically it's like squashing a bug, you're just dead.
Absent from the body, present with the
But,
Lord.
I'll
you
tell
know
you,
him.
my heart goes out to the families of the Air France disaster.
It's horrible for them to think about the way they've lost their
right.
loved
And
one.
the thing is, I fly Air France a lot. I choose to go through Paris on my way down to Johannesburg, just to give me a bit of a break in the flight. So I really empathize. Well,